Today we are going to be taking the near $600 behemoth that is the RTX 2070 Super, the Gaming X version from MSI to be specific, and pitting it against one of the most demanding games of today, Minecraft, with RTX. When you hear ray tracing, you probably think of titles like Metro Exodus, Control, or the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077. One thing's for sure, you probably don't think of Minecraft. But just how demanding can a game that came out originally 11 years ago be today? In this video, I'm going to answer that question, as well as, more importantly, is it worth it? Is it worth it for those of us who do have RTX cards to even turn on ray tracing, given the massive performance hit it incurs in a game that was never that focused on realism in the first place? To begin the test, I'm going to fly around the same RTX-capable game world created by NVIDIA themselves twice, once with RTX on and once with RTX off. Keep in mind that these are very detailed worlds that are somewhat CPU intensive on their own. On that note, the chip that the card is going to be paired with is a Ryzen 7 2700X, alongside the RTX 2070 Super, which are both inside of this case right here. Let's get into the tests.
These numbers were obtained while I was flying around NVIDIA's RTX-capable world called Imagination Island for approximately 5 minutes each time. There's no CPU overclock, and there's a GPU overclock of 100 MHz on the core and 500 MHz on the memory. The tests were performed at 1080p, of course. Looking at these results, you guys must think I'm crazy. Not only is the FPS higher when RTX is enabled, but the 1% low of RTX on matches the average of RTX off. At first I was confused as you are, but eventually I came to the conclusion that since the game is still in a beta state, it must have been so strongly optimized for RTX, since these worlds were created by NVIDIA specifically to showcase RTX, that the CPU became terribly inefficient when RTX was disabled. The CPU was pegged when RTX was off as expected, but the GPU usage was around 15%, probably even running in 0 RPM mode. So let's take a look at the much more meaningful RTX on numbers. The card averaged a buttery smooth 78 FPS with ray tracing, albeit at 1080p. The 1% and 0.1% lows were very respectable, with the card managing to target 60 FPS even at its 0.1% low. This card provided a sublime gaming experience in Minecraft RTX at 1080p. I would say that even if you have something a little bit less powerful like a 2060, it would probably still be quite playable at this resolution with RTX enabled.
Just to get an idea of how big a performance hit enabling RTX incurs, I'm going to run the game again, this time in a randomly generated world, not optimized for RTX, and see what the performance is like in that scenario. The only reason I can't try doing that same world with RTX is because RTX is only allowed in a select set of worlds that have been optimized for RTX. It'll be very interesting to see how RTX performs, though, in all worlds once the beta's over and it's fully rolled out to Minecraft players everywhere.
First thing I want to highlight is just wow. The difference is night and day. Now that I'm seeing the game again with RTX off, it looks like a completely different game. This actually looks like a game that could have come out in 2009. While the RTX on version absolutely does not. It's almost like I'm seeing the difference even more now that I've been playing with RTX for about an hour doing the testing, and now I'm seeing this. Let's talk a bit about performance. I'm getting around 250 FPS. I'm not actually going to bother getting the exact figures of average, 1% low, 0.1% low, but still, This is about a 68% decrease in performance, going from about 250 average, and we're being conservative here, down to about 78 average with RTX enabled. I know this GPU would obviously be capable of much more than 250 frames, since it's only in the 30s right now, but we're just going to go with this number, since this is with a pretty powerful 2700X, and no CPU in the world would allow this 2070 Super to even get close to its full potential in Minecraft with RTX off.
Now that you guys have just seen Minecraft with RTX off, let's dive in and see how Minecraft looks with ray tracing enabled, and whether or not it's worth it, given the massive performance hit it incurs.
As I'm sure you guys agree, the world becomes very beautiful with RTX on. Although the differences are certainly much more noticeable in areas with a lot of light. In the dark areas where ray tracing does not really have an effect because there would be no rays there to be traced, the difference is next to none. It sort of depends on what environment you're on. NVIDIA's creating these giant, beautiful, vibrant worlds with all these lights, which would not be the same as the world that you would normally be in. Say you just load up your world in Minecraft and it's not going to look like this. There's not going to be this many lights, and it's not going to be as noticeable that ray tracing is in effect, but it is still definitely going to make the game look a whole lot better. To me, it seems to give the world certain magical glow. Like, you can't even tell what it is about it, but the game just looks so much more vibrant. It no longer looks like this dull, blocky game. Now it actually provides some eye candy where you least expect it in Minecraft. You guys can judge for yourself how good it looks. This is just one of the demos, of which there are 6 actually. If this was me, I would definitely play the game with ray tracing all the time with the RTX 2070 Super. But if I had something with a little bit less power like the 2060, I probably would not, since the 2060 is likely to dip below 60 FPS at many points. I would not want to compromise my gaming experience below 60 FPS to experience this, but an average of 78 FPS is plenty for me in a game like Minecraft. So I would see no reason to disable ray tracing once it's fully rolled out. At this point, it's more of an experimental thing. I do, however, think that this is one of the better implementations of ray tracing that we've seen. In games like Battlefield 5, adding ray tracing, I really don't know what to say about that. I do not understand at all why they would decide to add ray tracing to a first-person shooter that's played competitively, but honestly, I'm sure that a lot of us don't understand a lot of the things that EA does. While I do think that this is a very good implementation of ray tracing that does enhance the game a lot, more than it does so with other games, such as, I would argue, Battlefield 5. Either way, there are many other games I believe should have gotten ray tracing first. Of all the games to pick, it's a bit of a strange option for NVIDIA to pick Minecraft to implement ray tracing in and use it as a showpiece for the ray tracing capabilities of its RTX cards. But that being said, ray tracing does have enormous capabilities, and I truly cannot wait to see ray tracing fully in effect in Cyberpunk 2077. We have seen some clips of Cyberpunk 2077 running with ray tracing, and it looks absolutely stunning. That game is doing things that no other game has done so far. Although I did like Shadow of the Tomb Raider's implementation of ray tracing a lot. That would probably be my favorite one so far, although Minecraft really is up there as well.
Well, guys, that about brings us to the end of the video, which means it's time for me to answer the question you've been waiting for. Which one wins, the RTX 2070 Super or RTX Minecraft? I think I'm going to have to give this one to the RTX 2070 Super. By averaging 78 FPS with RTX enabled, the 2070 Super did not do badly at all. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.